Hello friends, welcome back for part 25 of our walkthrough of Oxygen Not Included Spaced Out DLC. Let's make a couple changes here really quickly, or rather, I'll just let you know of a couple changes that have been happening. The slicksters that are down here, by the way, I haven't really talked about them too much. If you've seen my other videos lately, you know that I don't really care about these things that much. But if we're going to do anything with them, we might as well just do it on this asteroid. So I am sending my carbon dioxide down here so that the wild ones can still convert it into oil. It's not going to be a lot, but I'm just going to move them up into another area really quickly just so that they don't have any problems with... so if they go into this status where they could drown here, that could be a little bit of a problem. Plus, I don't want them to be creating oil all over the place. I'd rather have them create in one small area. So I'm just going to move them all in here, and I'll do that over the course of the next couple videos. It's pretty minor, but it is something that I guess we should probably do just to make sure that we can clean up the rest of this. Otherwise, having oil down here is going to bother me when it could be up in our little chamber that we made. So, yeah, anyway, just wanted to mention that. So the focus of this video is going to be entirely about getting this rocket platform finished up. I've talked about this a couple times already, but this is when we're going to actually get this going, because by the following video, we should be setting up our rocket and heading out to the new asteroid that we discovered in the last video, which is this one. It's always called something different. I just call it like the metal asteroid because that's what the main resource is and the main reason I would go there. But we need a couple of things here first, and the engine that we're going to be using to get there is going to be a steam engine. So I need water, and I need water in this chamber because this chamber is going to be entirely filled with steam. So we know that we've been having a lot of water problems lately, and by problems I mean like we're basically using exactly as much as we can produce right now. So we did hook up a couple other things to get a little bit of extra production, but it can be a little slow because I have to cool all this really hot water before I can use it in a lot of systems. But for something like this, it doesn't really matter what temperature I use. So I'm going to start pumping in some hot water into here, and we're going to get this all walled off so that we can at least get this started in the meantime. I also need to close up these with some water locks, and I guess we don't really need that cool of water, but we do at least have one... rather, we have a couple of pools of water that we can use, because I'm not really using this water that's used to close, or rather... like liquid lock this off anymore. So if this is just sitting here, I might as well use it. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to grab this one too, because there's not really a regular reason for me to go in here and mess around with any of my natural gas setup. Actually, before I do that, I probably should just replace this with a better vent. So we might as well do that while we're here too, and then I will drain all this out. But we're just going to need to get these two things closed off so that we actually have some, like, I guess, vacuum sealed area. I will also open this up a little bit more and make it so that we actually have a path to launch our rockets and get rid of some of these solar panels. So I'm just going to create a wall here, effectively, so that we can launch rockets and get them out of here while also not risking any problems of overheating with anything else in our base. So just going to be doing those two tasks, filling this up, getting our suits up so that we can start sealing this off and filling it up with water and getting our steam going. So yeah, couple projects that I laid out there, but I'm just going to get started on that really quick. Okay, got these resealed. Now getting rid of all the liquid that was sitting here for these locks, since we don't really need it anymore. We can always put it back if we need it, so this area is already drained into the new spot. Once we get this all done, we will be able to set up some gas pumps to get all this oxygen and stuff back in here. But also, we specifically want it vacuumed out of this spot, because this is where all of our steam is going to be, and we're going to need steam turbines here, so we might as well just get started working on that. So, just going to put a couple of gas pumps in here. They will double as my gas pumps that are going to be used to fill up my rockets, so I'm going to put a couple of them here. Maybe just something like this. I could put a third one over here if I really care about saving all of this oxygen and kind of sending it back into my base. I guess we might as well. I'm going to need suits here eventually once this starts to run out. Having my duplicants working in here and breathing the oxygen also helps, so that's another thing that we could really do. Thanks for breathing all my oxygen, I appreciate it. Up here we just got the rest of our chimney going, so just going to get the rest of this all walled off. Eventually this will all get taken, like the lid will get taken off of here, but I guess I might as well just keep this sealed so my duplicants don't have to change into suits while they're coming in and out of here yet. So, for now, we will just want these probably be built out of igneous rock insulated pipes so that when we have it sending out for steam, that it doesn't get broken in the pipes while it's on its way. So something like this to eventually get it all out of there. But the other thing we need that we talked about just earlier was the water. So I want to get that, but I also do want to start lining this area with tiles. And this has been the reason that I've been talking about the tungsten. So I want to line this all with metal tiles, kind of like that. Only because I want this area to be able to withstand the heat that's going to be coming from the rockets that I am going to be creating. And then I'm just going to create a door down here out of wolframite. This will allow the rocket exhaust to then interact with the steam that's down here. And any excess heat that those rockets create, I can use as power because I will want to put some steam turbines here as well. So might as well just put these down while we're at it. There we go. And then for where our ladder is, we're just going to want to create everything out of obsidian that's going to be ladders for this area. And that's because everything else is going to melt because of how hot the rocket exhaust can be. So just going to create a ladder to kind of get down there. And then these tiles, you don't have to do this. I just kind of like to do this to help spread out the temperature a little bit more. I like to just kind of run some tiles like this down to the bottom. That'll eventually connect with the bottom here so that it'll help share its temperature with all the steam that's in here just a little bit better. You don't have to do that. You could also use some temp shift plates and stuff like that around here, which is actually kind of not a bad idea. I guess we might as well do that. Let's do that instead. Oh, one thing I'm forgetting. This is actually off by one. I want to also put metal tiles on this wall, only because I want to capture the heat from my rockets as well as it starts to go up and help to kind of share it down there. So all these ladders need to be moved over one. That's why I had that tile there down there at the bottom earlier. Should have just listened to my past self. Cancel that. Get these running down like that. And then this is all going to be tiles as well, but except for where there's going to be doors. So I will eventually want doors to go into here. So something like this, I guess. We can just get rid of all of it. So yeah, we can use the tungsten to line up on here. We'll use some temp shift plates in this area, but it'll probably be closer to when we're actually launching the rockets. But that'll just help share the temperature down here with the steam. We won't have to use nearly as much metal. So there you go. Some live iterations to builds that are going on. Anyway, this is a lot of stuff going on here, but what we really want, and what I started by talking about, is I want the water to be in here so that we can start boiling it. So I might as well start grabbing it from the hottest source of water that I have that's not really doing anything. So this water is very hot, and I've already separated out the two different lines that come in here. One of the lines was to cool it, and the other one was to pump out the water when it's time to pump it out. So this is the pump for all the hot water that's in here. And I'm just going to run a line that goes all the way up to where my rockets are. Kind of just have to dig through this wall here. And that's what I'll use for the water that's just going to sit in that little basin there that we're going to eventually boil, because we're going to want to put some aqua tuners in here and boil it into steam so that we can use it for our rockets. So just going to be doing some of the kind of boring legwork here in the meantime of getting all that stuff up. But, yeah, I'll check back here when all this stuff starts to run and we start to get this thing filled up. We can turn on our pumps and do some more stuff. So, yeah, I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, we're ready to start sending our hot water. So what I'm going to do is, this was on a liquid pipe thermosensor originally to make sure that we weren't setting it into our water network unless it was below a certain temperature. So now I'm just going to say, if you're below like 1,000,000 billion degrees, then you can send it out, because I don't really care if this is already hot water. So sending the hot water up, just going to eventually land in this pool here, and this will be where we start creating our steam area that's going to be for our rockets. So let's start setting up some other things here that's going to help us convert that into steam. So we need a couple of aqua tuners, which is why keeping up on your steel production is going to be pretty important by this phase. Let's see, where do I want to place these? I guess we could place 2 of them right here. I want 2 of them in here only because this is going to be like my central cooling area from this point on. Eventually we're going to not rely on ice anymore to do the heavy lifting of our cooling. I want ice for right now because I want more water, but eventually it will just be ran by these aqua tuners and the pit of water that we're going to build right now. So I'm just going to build something that's kind of simple. Just something like this that we can eventually fill up. I'll put an airflow tile here so we can make sure that it does fill up all the way with water. Pretty stable, or rather pretty standard stuff that we've done before. We don't need a crazy amount of water in here, but I do like a good, like, pretty solid amount. I might fill this up to maybe like 500-600 kilograms per tile, which should fill this up decently. So yeah, we'll just do that. This area down here is going to be very similar to what we just set up with this. So we have a pool of cold water here that we could use for cooling also. We could run pipes and stuff out of this if we really wanted to. I really just need this to become steam and be more accessible. If you could find a way to hook both of these things up together so that this steam area was shared with this steam area, that would be great. But because of the size of the rocket platform, it can be pretty awkward. So I don't know. If you can find a better build for that, then that'd be cool. But I just kind of do it this way because eventually your cooling needs are going to expand over time. So I don't know. I'm okay with this. All right, so let's get a liquid reservoir. We can just throw one here. That's going to be for one, I guess, set up to our aqua tuner. Empty bin here, second one. And I guess this one can be used for our second aqua tuner. So we'll at least have two lines that can come out and cool other stuff in the near future. So we'll worry about that in a bit. For each one of these, same type of setup that we did before. So all we need to do is make sure that the water is warm enough to be justified to be sent down to the aqua tuner. So we're going to set up something that's pretty much exactly the same down here. We don't really need to go through all that excruciating detail right now. I'm also going to set up some power so that we can get all this stuff powered nicely as well, because each one of these aqua tuners is going to need to be on its own line for power. So just going to set up something simple for that over here. I did wall off the rest of this so that our ice biome is still preserved, but the rest of the stuff might fall. You might get a little bit of ice melting in here. Not the biggest of deals, but easy to clean up. So just going to set up a couple of power transformers up on this side, something like this, and then just hook it up to some heavy watt wire, like that. And then we can just connect it to our aqua tuners and kind of down here. We could probably split our lines and just have all this stuff running off of some power transformers here. We could actually probably put a third one if we want to really split this up nicely. I think I'm going to, just because we might as well. We're eventually going to need this whole area for something else in the next video too, so I'll get the rest of that stuff going. Our rocket area is almost ready. I'll at least get most of this vacuumed out. And at least to a point that we can start building in the next video as soon as we start. So I'll kind of do that. I will also set up a second line for water. I'm going to run a line of water that's going to go from here all the way up into this tank that we're about to create. And because I don't really care what the temperature of that is too, and I want it to run, like I want my aqua tuners to be on during this time, I guess I'll just set it up like that and we'll call it good. So yeah, just going to run another line of water here, and it's going to take a little bit to fill all this stuff up. So another editing break. I'll be right back. Alright, small update on progress. First of all, got our slicksters all ready to be moved here, so I just need to wrangle them and tell them to be put into a couple of small rooms like this. I don't want to keep them confined like this. I just want to have these rooms here just so that my duplicates can drop them off there. And then I will delete these walls so that they just all kind of sit on this one platform. And because the room that they're in is huge, they should be totally fine with that. So just going to leave them like that once we get there. On the other side, I had to land my rocket because the duplicate that was there, Trivaldo, he is very stressed out, and that's because I forgot to scrub Trivaldo's skills before I sent him out. So we should probably do that now. Here you go, Trivaldo, get in there. And then we should probably also rename Trivaldo because we will want to make sure that we know who is who, and if there's some kind of stress situation going on or some problem on the rocket that they're on, that we know who it is just by a quick glance. So I'm just going to change Trivaldo's name to something like, I don't know, Explorer Trivaldo. There. Then we'll send Trivaldo back out on the next mission for databanks once we get there. Our pumps are up, so I'm starting to clear out this room and this area of all the oxygen and stuff that's in there. And of course putting it on high pressure gas vents just to make sure that it actually can vent out. Then we have our suits up so our duplicants can run in here and still work and do everything. So still making a little bit of progress, but I wanted to mention the two things that were going on there. The other thing that's going to be happening here too is I'm getting a lot of idle duplicants because I have had them kind of like sweep out all the map and just send it to this central point so I can ship it back whenever it's time. But I will also need to make sure that they are continuing to work down here, so I'm going to start sweeping out all this area once I can get the slicksters all wrangled up, which it looks like we have now, so I think we can just delete this and call it good, and we can delete those as well. Then we'll just have a whole bunch of slicksters kind of just sitting here producing a little bit of oil for us here and there, and I'll just keep these duplicants busy by telling them to sweep out the map and putting all this stuff down at the bottom, which will then go through our material cooler like we set up in previous videos. So yeah, just going to keep at it, and again our focus is mainly on the rocket area getting set up, but we'll get there in just a bit. So I'll just kind of keep my duplicants spinning in the meantime. Yeah, we'll get there. Okay, getting close. We've got all of our tanks hooked up here that are going to be for cooling. So this left and right tank are going to be the ones that are hooked into the aqua tuners. So just have them on a liquid pipe thermosensor running into a shutoff, so that if the water that's sitting in this pipe is ever above a certain temperature, you can send it through the aqua tuner, it'll come down, share its temperature with this pool of water. I did not remember to turn on the water that's supposed to come here, so let's enable this so that it gets sent out correctly. Looks like that's all good. Again, if it's below a million billion degrees, then go ahead and send it up there. We don't really care how warm this is yet. So yeah, we got that flowing. We're going to get this tank filled up, but we also need to fill up these reservoirs with some type of material that's going to be going through our aqua tuner. And I really like polluted water, and we still have a little bit left from this tiny pocket down here. Again, I'm just going to say this a lot. This is a polluted water vent. If you are on this map, you should take this and use it. I am not using it only because I want this to be generic enough so that people on any map can follow these tutorials. But if you're playing on this exact seed, grab this. This is going to help you a lot. Anyway, so I'm just going to use this to fill up my tanks, which we're going to have to do a little bit of filtering on, by the way, because it did get mixed with some regular water here, and I don't want any regular water in that system. Otherwise, it's going to break my pipes, and I'm going to have to come back in here and fix it. So, I'll just go ahead and get that line ran. This is going to be a lot of building to get over all these pipes because there's so much stuff here. I guess I could probably go underneath. That would probably be the cleanest way to do it. So, yeah, I'll get those tanks filled up, and by the end of this video, we'll have our aqua tuners running. So at least we have a path to getting steam, and at least this area will all be prepped for the next video when we can actually start running missions. So I'll get on that, and then when these are all running, we'll call it good. A couple other things that I forgot, by the way. We do have 2 Atmosuit docks that are heading into this rocket platform. We need to make sure to change the mode to only allow the spacesuits to come back through, or rather duplicants wearing spacesuits, if there is vacancy here. Otherwise, they will start to mix up which ones they're going in and out of, and a bunch of suits will be left on the ground. So, forgot to mention that. The other thing that I also forgot to mention is that we need a way to cool down our steam turbines, because when these start pumping and dealing with all the hot steam that's down here, that's going to be a problem. So, just going to put in a couple lines of radiant pipe here. We don't need these anymore because we don't really need to fill up these pockets of water to create a liquid lock anymore. So just going to get rid of all those pipes. And what we're going to put in their place is the lines that we're going to be using to cool all this stuff. So this will eventually be out of the way. But I'm probably going to run it in from, I guess this tank would work. I'd have to make sure everything lines up. Once these lines are out of the way, this will be a lot easier, so I'm probably just going to have it go over to the left, go up, and run all the way up here, connect into these pipes, and we don't need all these to necessarily be radiant pipes. Some of them can just be regular pipes too, which I like to do. You don't necessarily have to do it this way. As long as there's some radiant pipes here, it'll keep this thing cool. So there you go, just something like that that can cool all this stuff off, and then it'll run back down and go into one of these tanks. It'll be all entirely filled up by the time we get there, but the only other thing that we really need to do right now, because I think all this line is done, is we need to connect this up so that we can start pumping out some polluted water into our tanks. And if any non-polluted water gets picked up, it'll get sent through this shutoff and just over into another line where I don't really care what kind of water it is. I think it's going to go in here and eventually sit in this area and eventually get filtered back up into my water network. So there you go. We'll get all this stuff filled up. Give me just a second to get some in there, and then we'll start these aqua tuners, and that'll be it for this video, and we'll jump probably straight into the next one, where we start getting our rockets and stuff like that set up, and start getting ready to go. Alright, tanks are filled up. Let's get these disconnected and get it reconnected back up to the aqua tuners. And then that should be it. So, just going to restore our connections here. The water should flow up here. At this point, if it's ever anywhere above, I want to keep this pretty low, and especially so that I can make sure all this water boils. Let's say above like 5 degrees Celsius, then I will let it be cooled down. So there you go. I'm also still pouring in some pretty hot water here too, so this ought to keep these aqua tuners busy for a little while, and should help us create enough steam to the point that we can start getting our rocket fuel ready and start getting the rocket set up to head to the other asteroid. So I think this should be the last little thing we should need to do. Yep, there we go. So, run it into the aqua tuner, heading back down here, going through a bunch of radiant pipes to share its temperature. All I really need to do now is make sure that this tank is filled up, and I'm going to let this run if it's anywhere below, I don't know, 750 on the water level. So once this reaches up there, these will stop flowing, and then, yeah, that'll be pretty much our tank of water that we can use for cooling later in the game, but for right now, it's really just to dump some temperature into these aqua tuners so that we have some steam ready to go. You're also going to want to make sure to turn off your pumps once the steam starts coming in here, so you kind of will need to keep an eye on this a little bit. So yeah, that's definitely... Oh, some important things that I should mention here. I don't know why. I don't think I mentioned this, but these gas pumps need to be made out of steel. The aqua tuners need to be made out of steel, only because if this is going to be all steam, if it's in any other type of material, except for some like later game materials that we're probably not even going to talk about, then it will overheat. It will overheat it, and that'll be a problem. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much what we need to do to prep our rocket platform. We'll definitely get a rocket mission going by the next one. We'll at least get the rocket built up and sent them on their way. But we also need a place to gather supplies and all that stuff too, so I'll talk about that in the next video. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll be back really soon. Take care.